to Behind the Bower, where we bring you inspiring conversations, a fresh look at the arts in our community, and spotlights on the incredible artists, performers, collaborative partners, and organizations that make our creative world thrive. Through this podcast, we aim to celebrate the universal expression of human experience through arts, culture, and community. I'm your host today, Lauren Hood, Program Coordinator for Bower Center for the Arts. In this episode, we're diving into the vibrant world of felt making with the wonderfully creative Dawn Edwards. Dawn is a renowned fiber artist whose journey into felt began after exploring stained glass and pottery, mediums that still echo through her sculptural, nature-inspired designs. Her passion for felt making has grown into a career that spans teaching, exhibiting, and co-coordinating the global felt making community through Felt United. Today, we'll talk about her artistic process, her deep connection to the natural world, and the joy she finds in sharing this expressive medium with others. Good morning, Dawn.
Good morning, Lauren, and thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining with me today.
This is my first podcast, so I've been excited about it.
Oh, that's awesome. Yes, I'm excited to have this conversation. So we're just going to dive right into some of the questions that I have for you. So you've just,
Great.
so you've described felt making as a path of exploration and self-expression. Could you share how you first discovered this medium and what drew you to it?
Certainly. So it definitely has been a journey for me. My introduction to felt making was actually quite serendipitous. My really good buddy from middle school, Peggy, had invited me to a needle felting flowers class, and Peggy and I just always have the best time together. We could be peeling potatoes and have a good time. So even though neither of us knew a thing about felting, off we went. And again, it was a needle felting class. And so for those of you who have done any needle felting, you know that the needles are very sharp. And so during the class, I looked over at my friend Peggy, and she wasn't doing anything. And I asked if she was okay. And come to find out, she had poked herself with one of those sharp needles instead of poking the wool.
Yeah.
And I think that may have been the moment that she decided that this was not the craft for her. But little did she know that when we went to that class, that something about the felting was going to really draw me in.
Mm-hmm.
The transformation of those loose, fluffy wool fibers into something soft and sculptural was magical to me.
Mm-hmm.
And to this day, it actually still does feel magical. If you do any research into felt making, there are actually tales of felt making having magical properties, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So as you can see, it's just always good to try new things. You never know where it's going to lead you. And felt making has been such a great joy in my life, taking me to places near and far that I never would have dreamed of seeing, and meeting people all around the world that I now consider to be great friends. So it's really enriched my life. And it never feels like work. It's all joy doing something that you love every day.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. That's an awesome story. Before felt, you had explored like stained glass and pottery. So how have those experiences influenced your approach to felting?
Yes. So years and years ago, seems like a different lifetime ago, actually, I worked at the newspaper in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And there were several, places where you could take art classes. There was the Kalamazoo Institute of Arts where I took pottery classes and just a number of classes that I had wanted to, try different techniques and media. And there was also a stained glass shop in Kalamazoo called Peepers. The owners actually live in my neighborhood.
Oh, cool.
And so I took classes at both of those. With the stained glass, I think, anyone, well, you had that beautiful piece right at the Bower. And you just can't help but fall in love with color when looking at a gorgeous stained glass piece with the sunlight streaming through it. I think the light itself actually becomes a part of the artwork.
Yeah.
So I think mixing colors, layering textures, these things still play an important part in my felt making.
Mhm.
And then pottery, on the other hand, taught me to work with my hands in a more organic way. Um, I guess that's a good way of saying getting your hands dirty. I loved hand building and sinking my hands into that wet clay. It
Mm.
was, just like being a child making mud pies again.
Yeah.
And I think when I began working with wool, I realized that I was drawing on both of these experiences, the structural sensibility from the stained glass and the tactile nature of clay.
Mhm.
And I think felting combines both of those qualities. There's a sculptural quality to felt that's very similar to clay. You're building shape and volume and presence, just in a different way. So I think those earlier experiences really helped me to see felt as a 3D medium full of
Mhm.
potential. And the other thing that I really appreciate about the felt making that I wasn't able to so readily do with stained glass or pottery. I didn't have a kiln, so anytime that I wanted to, work with clay, I had to go into Kalamazoo to use their kilns.
Mhm.
And with the stained glass, I didn't really have a space that I felt was safe using the chemicals and that type of thing in the house. Whereas with the felt making, I'm able to do all of that right here at the house. I do have a small studio in the backyard,
Mhm.
but during the winter when that studio is cold, I can just, work at my dining room table, and just have indoor studio right here in the house.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I love that. So your felt hats are renowned for like their sculptural, like you talked about, and just the inspired designs. And you use things like pine cones and conch shells. Like, what inspires these creations, and how do you translate natural forms into a wearable art?
Yes, well, I have to thank my dog Buddy in part for that. We go out a couple of times each day around the neighborhood for our walks,
Mhm.
and um, he has to stop and sniff everything as dogs do. So we are by no means fast walkers, and one of his favorite spots is a nature preserve that we have just a couple of blocks from the house.
Mhm.
And so his being a pokey walker and, just observing all of the beauty that surrounds me in nature, I've always been drawn to the beauty of natural forms, pine cones and seed pods,
Mm.
conch shells, lichen, moss. I just think they're so beautiful, and I'm inspired by and actually love to echo their essence in felt, sometimes even combining, bits and pieces of that. I think wool, um, which of course we use in felt making, is a perfect partner for this, because it responds so well to the shaping and compression and layering in a very organic way.
Mhm.
If you've ever seen any of the woodsy vessels that I create, I
Mhm.
think you can picture that in your mind.
Yeah.
When I make a nature inspired hat, for example, I like to think of that as a sculpture, a wearable art,
Mhm.
and I want it to feel like it could have grown there in nature, that it belongs to both the wearer and the natural world.
Mm. That's so cool. Yeah. The woodsy vessels. Yeah, I've seen a couple of different pictures from when you had that workshop back at Bauer, I think before I was there. And it's just, I mean, it's
Yeah,
stunning.
it was a great
Yeah.
workshop. I think the Bauer is such a treasure, and I just always have the best time teaching there. So very very nice. You're great to work with, and the
Oh,
students are always wonderful.
well, thank you. Yes, we love having you, and we are super excited that you're coming over with two more workshops that we're going to talk about in a second. Um,
Yes.
Um, so let's talk a little bit about um you're being a co-coordinator of Felt United, which connects over 7,000 felt makers globally. So how has this community shaped your artistic journey, would you say?
Yeah. So Felt United was founded in 2009 by a great friend of mine, Elis Vermeulen, who at the time was living in the Netherlands, and Cynthia Reynolds from Norway. In 2012, they asked if I and my good friend Nicola Brown from Ireland would
Mm-hmm.
want to take over the coordinating of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so each year, um, we choose a theme, and felt makers from all around the world are invited to create a work in response
Mm-hmm.
to that theme and to share their creations online.
Yeah.
Um, it's the aim of Felt United is to connect felt makers who are geographically disconnected more than likely from our peers. We're kind of spread out all over. So there's a diversity of lifestyle with people living on farms producing their own fiber, while others of us purchase our supplies.
Mm-hmm.
But the tie that binds us all together is that we make felt in all shapes and forms, everything from sturdy carpets to Nuno felted scarves or installation art. And so the World Wide Web provides us with the means to connect and come together and feel united.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's beautiful. Art is such a unifying experience. And I think that's just so cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. And I think, for all the negative, publicity that the internet gets, it's so nice, when you find ways of uniting people through that. And so
Yeah.
this group certainly has done that.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, definitely using um what can often be used as a negative thing like the internet or social media or things like that to
Yeah,
unite and build a community, because I mean that's what it's supposed to be used for. So
that's
that's
right.
yeah.
That's right.
No, that's awesome. You had mentioned the Nuno felt scarves, which is actually one of two of your upcoming workshops at the Bower. We are super excited. So we've
Yeah.
got the felted bird pods and then the fabulous Nuno felt scarves. And could you just share what students can expect with these workshops?
Certainly. So these are two different methods of felting. Nuno felting is actually a newer process in the felt making realm. Of course,
Mm,
felt making goes back many thousands of years. It was actually the first known textile in humankind,
mm,
probably because it was, quite by accident. Some wool on the ground, it rains, people walk on it.
mm,
And so just the agitating of those fibers created felt. May not have been beautiful felt in the beginning, but it served, purposes for housing and, clothing and, many useful purposes. So the two classes that we have coming up, um, actually quite soon,
yeah,
um, are really great either introductions to felt making or continuations in your felt making process. Nuno felting, again, a newer process in
mm,
felt making. It's combining lighter weight fabrics. We're going to be using silk and then having the wool fibers integrate with that silk. So you're actually creating your own fabric, which is really cool.
yeah,
And then we're going to do a couple of, um, you know, interesting techniques where we're putting some resist in so that we get some wave-like patterns in that.
mm,
The felt bird pods are just wonderful. I love making the bird pods, and they're actually quite useful for our fine feathered friends,
yeah,
where we're making actually a wet felted, bird pod or nesting
mm,
place for the birds.
Yeah. No, those are super cool. I know that those are one of Susan's favorites. She loves those, and she always says she's like they're almost too pretty to put outside. Like I just want to put it in my house and look at it all
Yes.
the
Well,
time.
actually, that's funny that you mentioned that because I have had workshop participants who have made them, and then after spending a day putting it together and having it turn out so beautifully, they say, "I think I'll put it inside the window so the birds can look at it, but they can't pick at it."
Yeah,
So
that's right. That's right. So these workshops are open to all skill levels. How do you structure the class to accommodate both beginners and the more experienced felters?
yes, well, one, I have to say that felt making is very forgiving.
Hmm.
And so I always tell people that, you don't have to, think of yourself as an artist. I think everyone is creative. You just have to tap into that. And so I try to approach every group, with an open mind. Felt making is incredibly versatile and tactile, so it just naturally lends itself to diverse learning styles.
Hmm.
I always begin the workshop by trying to create a welcoming, inclusive space where everyone feels safe to explore and express themselves through art. I just can't impress enough that everyone has a creative um, space. So give it a try. Don't think that you aren't artistic. It will come together, I promise.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I do design the workshops with layered entry points. So
Hmm.
for beginners, I break down the fundamentals a little bit more, like the layout and the shrinkage and the fiber choices, so that
Hmm.
students can build confidence step by step. And then each stage is demonstrated. And, of course, I'm there for any hands on support needed.
Hmm.
For more experienced felt makers, I tend to offer optional challenges such as more complex shaping or surface design techniques, or just ways to push the form and texture.
Hmm.
And one great thing I love about in person workshops, I always encourage peer sharing, which
Hmm.
creates a really rich environment where we're all learning from each other. I can't tell you the number of times in a workshop I've learned, a new tip or trick.
Hmm.
Um, so I think in person workshops are grand. And then, everyone works at their own pace. And, no one feels rushed, and everyone can, you know, just, feel free to create.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're really excited about those, and I'm going to share um, all of that info with you guys at the end, which is we're coming up on that. Just have a couple more questions for Dawn. Just looking ahead for you, what upcoming projects or themes are you excited to explore in your felt making?
Well, let's see. Right now, as you probably know, I'm just really drawn to themes around ecological interdependence
Hmm.
and the fragility of our planet. I
Hmm.
think that's something that, that um, we're all concerned about right now.
Hmm.
And so the vessels that I'm working on, the woodsy vessels, feel like they're part of the forest floor,
Hmm.
mossy, textured, layered with growth and decay.
Hmm.
One project I'm developing involves incorporating found natural materials and text,
Hmm.
like little scrolls or messages that are tucked into the works that speak to the environmental stewardship and our shared responsibility. I have one piece that's on exhibit right now at the Westminster Arts Festival in
Oh,
Portage, Michigan.
yeah.
That show opens up this Saturday if anyone's
Hmm.
in the area. And I'm also exploring, again, more sculptural forms that kind of blur the lines between vessels and habitat,
Hmm.
almost like tiny imagined ecosystems. And I just love the idea that felt can hold both meaning and mystery. So I do love incorporating wordage, whether it's visible or hidden within the piece.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can't wait to see that. I can't wait to see what you do with that. That's so beautiful. I love it. Just one more question for you today, Dawn. For those new to felt making, what is your biggest piece of advice that you would offer to encourage their exploration of this art form?
Oh, let's see. I would say, of course, be curious. Don't be afraid to play. Just as how I found felt making again, quite by accident. You just never know where something is going to take you, or in what form you will. Um, you will find something that you truly love. So let go of the idea that things have to be perfect or that you have to be perfect. Again, felt making is wonderfully forgiving and just full of surprises. So, um, you know, one thing I love about felt making, it's a slower process. You're working with your hands, as with a lot of the art. So I think in this busy day and age, it's so good to give yourself permission to slow down.
Mm,
And there's just something really grounding about working with wool and water and your own hands.
mm-hmm,
It connects you to something ancient, which I love about felt making, is that it goes back so many thousands of years.
mm-hmm,
Um, and, each piece that you make, whether you're a beginner or whether you're quite experienced, it teaches you something new. And even if it doesn't turn out the way that you expected, which, I can't tell you how many times I've started out with one image in my mind and something, completely different is the finished work. But, sometimes I like what evolves even better than what I had originally intended.
yeah,
So, just keep going. I think the magic is in the making,
mm-hmm,
as with a lot of the arts.
yeah. No, that is perfect advice. That's great life advice. That's great for needle felting. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, that brings us to the end of today's conversation with the incredibly talented Dawn Edwards. Dawn, thank you so much for joining me and sharing your passion and creativity with us. It was just such a joy having you.
Well, thank you so much, Lauren. Boy, that time went by so
I
fast.
know.
So thank you for making it so easy for me.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And if today's episode has you feeling inspired, don't miss your chance to learn directly from Dawn right here at the Bauer Center for the Arts this May. She'll be leading 2 hands-on workshops, the fabulous Nuno felted scarves on Friday, May 9th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., and felt bird pods on Saturday, May 10th from 9 to 4. Spaces are limited, so be sure to snag your spot now at bowercenter.org. And while you're marking your calendar, here are just a few other can't miss events coming up in May. So we have our Art on Tap happening Sunday, May 4th at Beals Brewery. We're bringing a Star Wars themed paint and sip for a May the 4th afternoon. Afternoon of creativity and community and craft brews, and that is definitely a don't miss. And then on Saturday, May 24th from 12 to 2, bring the whole family to our Cap Kids event. We'll have outdoor chalk coloring, indoor chalk pastel rubbings, and a fun scavenger hunt throughout the art gallery. It's just a perfect way to get the kids outside and engaged in the arts. And that evening, you make sure to stick around for a special concert with the Lyd Chichester Folk Duo. We're so excited to welcome them back home for a heartfelt hometown performance. Thanks again to Dawn for being with us, and thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you next time on Behind the Bower.